Hello and welcome to the January edition of our Faith Hour Diocese. I'm Dan Gallagher. As we continue to celebrate the 150th anniversary of the founding of the Diocese of Scranton, we'd like to start off today's program by looking back on those Catholic immigrants who came to northeastern Pennsylvania in search of a better life. We'll also look at the latest wave of immigrants who continue to enrich the life here in the Church of Scranton.
Something that's always marked the Diocese of Scranton has been the diversity of the Catholic population.
It's part of the fabric of the church. We're an immigrant church, totally, throughout the centuries, and it continues to be so.
From seeds planted in 1793, when the first Catholic services were held in Bradford County, to the building in 1825 of the first church in Susquehanna County, the roots of faith began to grow. Streams of Catholics from all over Europe continued to come here in search of a better life.
The diocese has a very rich history of immigrants who come here to work in the coal mines, to work in the various factories and the farming communities, the railroads.
Out in Lycoming County, it was lumber along the Susquehanna River. In Tioga County, leather tanning, particularly Italian Catholics who knew the leather trade, settled there.
The Germans, the Italians, the Polish, the Croats, the Slovaks, the Lithuanians, and so forth, they all had their own languages when they came here. They wanted to live with their own and near their own and have their own church. It strengthened them as a people.
By the 20th century, the diocese had expanded to 239 parishes, with about half of them identified as national parishes, reflecting the rootedness of the language of the immigrant groups they served.
As the process of assimilation continued, you don't find the language barrier any longer. Younger generations are more Americanized, if you will, than their forebears had been. As a result, there became less need for the multiplicity of churches, and that was, of course, a need that subsequently had to be responded to as well.
In the mid-20th century, a Second Vatican Council called for the Church to reimagine the concept of parish. The focus would shift from structures to members.
When the diocese celebrated its 100th anniversary, it was 1968. That was immediately after the council, and at that time, it was a community that was coming out of ethnic conclaves, joining the middle class, being more integrated into the greater American population, and along with that came this great change in the way parish life was organized, and in general what it meant to be Catholic.
I grew up in Hazleton in a Slovak parish, and we passed 7 other churches, Catholic churches, to get to the Slovak one. We really were kind of fighting against each other sometime, and I think Vatican II brought us the ability to say, hey, look, we're all in this together, whatever part of Europe we came from. You're Catholic first.
From 1905 until 2009, Hazleton was the site of the only Tyrolean Catholic church in the United States. Our Lady of Mount Carmel served immigrants from Tyrol, Austria.
In 2008, the diocese was challenged once again to rethink what it means to be a parish.
A number of years ago, we went through Call to Holiness and Mission, which was a process by which we sort of right-sized our number of parishes based on our population. What were small, almost country parishes became the largest parishes that we have. St. Jude's in Mountaintop, for example, just built a brand new church.
The stained glass windows in the newly constructed St. Jude's Church in Mountaintop were repurposed from Holy Family Church, a Slovak parish in Scranton.
St. Jude's Parish started in 1953. Before that, there was a small church, St. Catherine's, which was a mission church. Now we're 2,500 families, households, which is pretty substantial for our diocese and our area, and we still have continued growth.
As an example of the population shift in the diocese throughout the decades, by the mid-1900s, the population of the city of Scranton approached 150,000 residents. Today, the city's population is about half that number.
St. John's is one of the newest parishes in the Diocese of Scranton. The church was built actually in 1990. We have about 1,300 families. We see people of all different skin colors, of all different backgrounds and ways of life. It's beautiful. It reflects the universal church. A place like the Poconos, where the population has vastly grown only in recent years, in the last 30 years or so, we can see a different kind of church here. People can find an experience of community and fellowship, not just because their grandparents or great-grandparents built this church, but because this is the place where the body of Christ meets and worships and is built up.
The church changes as the people and the communities change. Immigration is such a beautiful thing that enriches the Catholic Church.
Whatever form the local parish community has taken during the long journey of the people of God throughout the Diocese of Scranton, their vibrant faith and vision have been key to moving forward.
As the Church of Scranton celebrates the 150th anniversary of its founding, it carries on a long tradition of doing all it can to nurture vibrant faith communities across the diocese. In our next segment, we'll see how the Diocesan Office for Parish Life continues to guide faithful to a more active role in their parishes and a deeper relationship with Christ. Joining me now, it's a pleasure to welcome Catherine Butel, Diocesan Secretary for Parish Life. Next, I'd like to welcome Anne-Marie Cawley, who serves as the Coordinator for Pastoral Council Development. Catherine, the first thing I want to touch upon is the program that we went through a few years ago, Call to Holiness and Mission. It wasn't that long ago that we went through this major parish restructuring. At times it was somewhat painful for faithful when they were seeing their churches closed and consolidated. But why was that process so necessary?
It's an important question, Dan, in a time in the history of this diocese, which is not unlike a phenomenon happening in many dioceses around the country. Of course, the Diocese of Scranton was very proactive in recognizing that for the very purpose of sustaining vibrant, vital parishes, it was necessary to right size, in a sense, to determine the right number of parish communities to serve the population that we have at this time in our history, to serve the needs and the mission and the ministry in a way that we could sustain, that would be viable both in terms of the people available to participate and the financial resources. So it was necessary, I think a phrase that helps us understand it, it was necessary so that the church and all of her parishes here could focus not merely on maintenance and survival, but rather could focus on the very thing that the program was called, could focus on the call to holiness and the mission entrusted to each parish. So the hope of the people who did that very difficult labor of love during the time of call to holiness and mission is being borne out now in the remaining 120 parishes and in their ability, for them to feel the sense of unity, the sense of new life, the sense of hope and potential for the new ministries they can do to respond to the mission as it changes in every decade of our history.
Anne-Marie, going back a few years ago, Bishop Ambera released his pastoral vision, Wounded and Loved, Regathering the Scattered. When you reflect on that pastoral letter and also what the Holy Father is calling for, what is their vision for a parish community today?
The vision for the parish community today is to become its best version of itself with the resources that it now has available in new ways related to the consolidation, that they can gather those who were scattered in other faith communities to now become one unified faith community to better serve, as Catherine said, in mission and ministry, those available to meet those needs.
Catherine, looking at certain benchmarks for what you would consider a vibrant parish, what exactly does that model look like?
Well, referring again to Bishop Ambera's pastoral letter, first of all, because that really does pose the vision of the kind of vitality, the kind of parish life that we're trying to nurture. And it also guides all of the work of the Office for Parish Life. So those, again, who have studied it or who would like now to read Bishop's letter will find these categories of word, worship, service, and community. Those were not brand new. Those have been the guiding pillars, if you will, of the church life and parish life as we've always understood it, and certainly stemming from the Second Vatican Council and from canon law, in fact. But in Bishop's letter, those benchmarks are actually specified. There are bullet points under each of those 4 categories to try and say, what does it look like when a parish is living up to this vision? And so we've been had that as a resource to guide our work when our parish pastoral council planning facilitators work with each parish in identifying their goals and objectives. They're always able to refer back to the benchmarks which are there. Certainly now that we're working with nearly up to about 100 of our 120 parishes, we've heard common themes that reinforce the question you're asking, that reinforce what are the markers, what are the characteristics of a really healthy parish. And among those would be such things as the spirit of hospitality and welcome, a vibrant liturgy where many people are participating, where it really is the work of the people and everyone is participating actively. A very keen sense of service, not only to the members within the parish community, that's important, but really a really healthy, strong parish that's serving its mission in the world has a sense of responding to the needs in the community, the pastoral care area that's entrusted to each parish.
Anne-Marie, you and I over the last year have talked about this on many occasions. But I think quite often when parishes are looking at the whole prospect of pastoral planning and parish renewal, they find it a very daunting task. And they often think, well, am I walking this journey alone? But when you think of the resources that we have available here at the diocesan level through our Office for Parish Life, what kind of help is available in order to help them continue this journey of faith?
We have been amazingly blessed in terms of resources. Bishop Bambera has valued the pastoral planning process, and in his support of it going forward, has richly blessed this office with myself and 7 other facilitators. So there are 8 individuals well-versed, well-informed in terms of all different options related to pastoral planning, who are willing and wanting to accompany any parish in its pastoral planning process. We will walk with them, adapt all that we've learned in the 5 years that we've been doing pastoral planning to meet them where they are and walk that journey for renewed parish life in their community. In addition to having the facilitators, last year Bishop asked everyone as a follow-up to fulfilling the vision, what was the one priority in your parish in terms of what you wish to work on in this next year? Ironically, I think so interestingly, as we've seen come forward in every plan, the welcoming and hospitality, a desire for increased engagement, a wanting for lifelong faith formation, enhanced communication, opportunities for outreach and service were resonating themes from parishes over and over and over. So in response to that, we consulted with a national consultant, John Roberto, and have now available to us 4 toolkits that the facilitators will actually go out and work with a parish individually, and we've offered presentations of those toolkits now twice in different locations for persons from any parish or parish council to come and attend that program. So we currently have a toolkit for welcoming and hospitality. We have one for evangelization. We have one for communication. And we have one for engagement.
Catherine, as we look back on the 150 years of this diocese, the Church of Scranton has a long history of welcoming new groups into our community. And so many of our churches were built by ethnic communities from all over the world. And today we see a new influx of immigrants coming from Latin America, Central America. Are you just as excited about where we are today in welcoming the newest members of our church?
Well, certainly, Dan. This just it ties together our history so beautifully, just as you did. And in every a phrase that I enjoy quite a bit from Pope Francis is he talks about the missionary creativity of a parish, that we can respond to the unique signs of the times. And so now our parishes in many parts of the diocese are really part of this pastoral planning, is to take a really good look at not only the makeup of our parish community, who are we? What are our needs now? What are our priorities? How do we think God is calling us right now? But at the same time, to take a similarly good, clear look at, again, I used the phrase pastoral care area, at the community in which the parish is planted, because we're not really here. The parish doesn't exist only to take care of its members, and it's not just about who comes inside the church. Again, Pope Francis over and over and over again is talking about us reaching the perimeters, reaching out, making the first step, taking the initiative to reach the people in the field. And so understanding that a parish really is everyone in that geography. It's not just the people who come inside the church. And so basically, back to your question, Dan, we want to be increasingly aware of who now is residing in Northeast Pennsylvania and in each particular town and borough, and what are the unique needs, what is the mission field entrusted to us now? Maybe we have an aging population, and that doesn't mean that we just keep doing all the same things we used to do when we had a lot of young families. It means rather we begin to respond to the new needs of the population that makes up this community. Maybe we have a more Hispanic Latino community that's living in this area now, and they're finding a great place to bring their families and to raise their families, and they really want to be involved in our community. And so we find a way to integrate them into the parish life and to gain the great gifts that they are bringing to our parish communities and to offer all that we have. So that certainly is the ongoing process of parish vitality, is constant renewal. And it's true here, it's true in the church at large, the universal church.
Speaking of Pope Francis, I wanted to reflect on something that he tweeted not that long ago, where he said the laity are called to become a leaven of Christian living within society. Anne-Marie, when you think about what we're hoping to accomplish in our parishes, by getting faithful in the pews, more active in parish life, in the work of the church, what do you think that means for both the parish and for the people themselves when they do take a more active role in being Christ for other people?
I think it is a way of responding for every person who has a longing and desire to hear the call, to respond to the call, and most importantly, to be Christ for others. That each of us has the capacity to receive a call, to respond to a call, and be that face of Jesus for whoever in our family, in our parish, in our community. And to follow up a little bit on your last question, if I may, only from my work in different councils, while the multicultural diversity is impacting many of our parishes, I see even in parishes that don't have necessarily the additional multicultural diversity, that there's a significant newness to many parishes. As a result of the call to holiness and mission, members of communities, former communities, finding their way to that place that they call their spiritual home. So there's a wanting for belonging, and I think a new need in parishes to recognize the many new persons who are coming to their doors to be fed spiritually.
Catherine, one last question for a parish team that may be watching this interview today and is struggling in its own work trying to create a more vibrant parish community. What is a key message you would like to get across to parishes out there who are in need of help, in need of guidance?
Well, I think you mentioned the image that Pope Francis uses of a leaven of the gospel. It's a very biblical image, and he's using it quite a bit right now because it has exactly the impact that Anne-Marie mentioned, that understanding an individual or a parish team, parish leadership team, understanding a vision of parish in the way that Pope Francis does is the first step, I think. And so while he uses that image of leaven, which suggests that we, wherever we are, whatever setting of life we're in our family, in our workplace, in the civic community, as well as in the church, we're helping the gospel to be present and to be raised. Some other really rich images when Pope Francis says, the parish is a sanctuary where the thirsty come to drink along the way of their journey. It's a community of communities and a center of constant missionary outreach. So I think, in response to your question, an image also he uses is field hospital, where we take people exactly where they are, we assess what their most urgent need is, and we respond. So the first step for any parish team, whether they're thriving right now, as many are, or whether they feel they're in a need and they're a little bit needing some help, is to talk about what is the vision of parish? How is God calling us? What are we trying to become? How do we see ourselves? How does God see us? And as we articulate that vision, then we begin to say, okay, what will it take for us to move in that direction? What are some of the steps? What are some of the first steps? We've talked in this conversation about some of the resources. I wanted to be sure and add that all of what we're talking about in terms of nurturing and growing healthy and thriving parishes depends a great deal on the leadership development. And so that's another resource that the Office for Parish Life provides, specifically in our ministry formation opportunities and also in direct facilitation with parish teams, so staff planning and retreats and such. So again, the resources that we can provide in terms of developing the leadership and also helping the leadership team in the parish to identify and call forth the gifts of every member.
Taken from the book of Exodus, the theme for this year's celebration of the Week of Prayer for Christian Unity is Your Right Hand, O Lord, glorious in power. Dating back to 1908, these days are set aside each year for Christians throughout the world to share the prayer of Jesus that all may be one, that the world may believe. In our next segment, we're going to take a closer look at efforts right here in northeastern Pennsylvania to promote greater understanding and cooperation among Christians. Joining me now, it's a pleasure to welcome Monsignor Vincent Gramaglia, who serves as the Diocesan Coordinator for Ecumenical and Interfaith Relations. Next, I'd like to welcome Pastor Dave Twiss, who serves as pastor of the Green Ridge Assembly of God Church in Scranton. Pastor Dave is also the presbyter of the northeast section of the Pendle District for the Assemblies of God. Monsignor and Pastor Dave, thank you so much for being here. Monsignor, first question. The Church of Scranton has a long history of hosting an annual service at the cathedral during this week, but also the Week of Prayer for Christian Unity has been a major focus of the diocese since the Second Vatican Council. Why is this such a special moment for the diocese?
Well, this year actually is the 100th anniversary of the Week of Prayer for Christian Unity. It started in 1908 by Father Paul Watson when he was an Episcopalian priest. It stands out because ever since the Second Vatican Council, Catholics have gotten involved in it. And our diocese, right from 1966 on, when Bishop McCormick came here, he formed a Diocesan Ecumenical and Human Affairs Commission. So it's been a very important part of the Diocese of Scranton since 1966.
And Monsignor, part and parcel of that week that we observe, the Week of Prayer for Christian Unity, the highlight is the service we have at St. Peter's Cathedral, an ecumenical celebration of God's Word. Why do you look forward to that particular service each year?
Because we invite a clergy from all Christian denominations, churches, and communions. And this year, Pastor Dave Twiss will be with us as our speaker.
Pastor Dave, looking at that particular celebration at St. Peter's Cathedral, you will have the opportunity not only to speak to the folks that are sitting in the congregation, but also to a much larger TV audience. What is the key message you're hoping to get across that day?
Well, it's an honor to be able to share the word with all of our brothers and sisters on that day. But in addition, the topic of that day is the power of God, which I'm very pleased to be able to brag on the power of God for that time. So you don't have to twist my arm too hard to get me to talk about the power of God. And so I'm excited about being able to share that and to be able to share a word of encouragement for all of us on that day.
Monsignor, following the prayer service, we'll have the opportunity to break bread at the rectory next door. And earlier in the week, Bishop Bambera will be hosting dinners for members of various churches, including the Orthodox Church, Eastern Rite Church, and the Polish National Catholic Church. Why are opportunities like that so important in our ongoing efforts to try and promote ecumenism?
Because it promotes fellowship and understanding and cooperation throughout the whole year. And it's a way for people to get together. In fact, the Orthodox and Eastern Rite Catholic priests get together monthly. And once a year we do it at the Cathedral Rectory. So it promotes fellowship, cooperation, understanding, and friendship.
Pastor Dave, in addition to the Week of Prayer for Christian Unity, we also have a local effort that continues throughout the course of the year, the Christian Communities Gathering Group. You've been part of it since its inception. Why has that been such a special opportunity for you to sit around the table and dialogue with leaders of other Christian churches?
Well, for myself, I've grown up evangelical, Pentecostal, and have not had a lot of exposure to the mainline Protestant churches or Catholic churches, and so I think for me, being part of that group has been a blessing for me to be able to know much of the history, much of the story of those churches is our story, and the Christian traditions that those other churches bring that I didn't really know a lot about, I've really gotten to appreciate and to love, because that history is my history too. And so it's been an eye-opener for myself to be able to really enjoy the time that we have together in sharing, seeing how different communities worship, the differences and the similarities really has been a blessing for me.
One of the things I would just want to agree with Pastor Dave is the very fact that we get together, you realize how many things you have in common.
Yes.
And where you agree and can work together on in a community and give common witness.
Yes.
And that's a great thing, not only once a year, but throughout the rest of the year. You're building up relationships. You're learning what other people believe. What you have in common is a big difference from what happened years and years ago, where nobody knew anybody else.
Right.
And really didn't pay attention to anybody else. And there wasn't that cooperation or friendship.
And I think especially, I look back to when we went through the Baptism, Eucharist, and Ministry document. And we spent probably maybe 2 years going through this and highlighting the differences as well as the similarities between all of our fellowships with baptism, Eucharist, and ministry.
Right.
And what really sort of blew me away was the fact that when we looked at it, we found that we really had a lot more in common than we had that was different. The differences were nuances, but the similarities were pretty striking.
Monsignor, over the years, I think there has been a certain fear or anxiety on the part of many getting involved in the ecumenical movement, a fear that they might lose part of their own identity. But do you think we've come to a point where we can sit down around the table and truly respect each other's faith tradition?
Absolutely. Now, ultimately, we want, the prayer of Jesus is that all may be one. But we're talking about the present. How can we have unity with diversity? How there are different expressions. Sometimes we speak today about an ecumenical exchange of gifts. Different traditions have brought to the table their particular gift or dimension or aspect that others can share in without contradicting another church's belief system. So there's been an enrichment in understanding and cooperation because of people sharing their various gifts. Unity and diversity.
Looking at the regular meetings that we have with the Christian Communities Gathering Group, we always start the morning off with prayer. And each time it's an education because we come together in prayer according to the tradition of the hosting church. Why has that always been a special moment for you?
Well, yeah, I think it really, it showed the striking similarities that we have, and yet the different nuances that we have as well. Not as being something that we're divisive, but as something that we're really, even the differences were not divisive. They were more uniting than divisive. When we worshipped up, we had spoken earlier, when we worshipped up at St. Tikhon's, and experienced just the singing for the blessing of the food. It was such a beautiful thing, striking. And then being able to worship at Holy Ghost Byzantine Church or at St. Nicholas Cathedral, for myself, really has been a pleasant eye-opener, and I've been blessed by being able to do that as well.
Monsignor, this is a special year for the Church of Scranton, being that it's the 150th anniversary of the founding of the Diocese of Scranton. That being the case, how do you see ecumenism weaving into our celebration of this special anniversary?
John Paul II, St. John Paul, said that ecumenism is an organic part of the mission of the Church, that search for common unity. And so it's a part of every parish and every institution, every school in the diocese. In fact, the Directory on Ecumenism talks about the importance of the parish promoting ecumenism, the importance of the school promoting ecumenism. And we have various degrees of cooperation, different activities trying to promote mutual understanding, cooperation, and witnessing to our belief in Jesus Christ as Lord and Savior.
Pastor Dave, one last question. In light of the problems that we encounter in today's secular world, and I'm talking of incidents of violence, terrorism, war, why do you think today more than ever Christians truly do need to come together to address some of these issues?
Well, I think our voices are more powerful when they are shared together. And there's a lot that we can share together. I mean, if you're at work and there's a crisis in someone's family, you don't ask what denomination they are to ask if you can pray with them or for them. You say a prayer for them. You might even let them know that. When there's an opportunity to do an act of kindness, you don't check a person's denominational card when you do that. You just go ahead and do the right thing. And so I think the world needs to see the fact that even though we are different in our expressions of faith, we come under the same banner, the banner of Christ. And that Jesus is who unites us all anyway. And I think the world needs to see that in a more marked way in these days, that we are having such violence and things going on in the world. But we have that opportunity to be able to have that voice that's still unified through Jesus.
Over the week of January 28th through February 3rd, Catholic schools here in the diocese will be taking part in the annual celebration of Catholic Schools Week. The theme for this year's celebration is Catholic Schools: Learn, Serve, Lead, Succeed. In our next segment, we'll see how our Catholic schools are nurturing the future leaders of our church and society. Joining me now, it's a pleasure to welcome Ava Fino, who is a freshman at Holy Redeemer High School in Wilkes-Barre. Next, we have two of her siblings, Michael and Mia Fino, who are both 7th graders at Good Shepherd Academy School in Kingston. Next, I'd like to welcome Leslie O'Connor, who is a sophomore at Holy Cross High School in Dunmore, and her brother, Rockney O'Connor, who is in 5th grade at LaSalle Academy in Jessup. Guys, thank you so much for being here today. Ava, when I talk about Catholic Schools Week, and this is our one opportunity during the year to really say who we are and why we're so proud about being part of a Catholic school family, what do you think it is about Catholic schools that make them so special from your point of view?
I think that the values that we're taught and like how we treat others and how we see the good and the God in everyone, that everyone's made from God.
Michael, do you find the same thing? Do you think that what you're learning about being a Christian and learning about Jesus is probably just as important as anything else that you're learning in the school?
Yes.
Why?
It just teaches us great lessons, good values. It teaches us to be more spiritually inclined with God and others. It teaches not to judge, not to look down upon others, find the good in people, and find the good in ourselves.
Well said. Mia, you yourself, why do you appreciate your Catholic education so much?
I appreciate my Catholic education because it teaches us to be more welcoming to others, and so we can be more nice to each other, and we can learn more about God and heaven.
Leslie, I mean, you're listening to some of these students here from various schools. Do you share the same feelings? Why do you think your education at Holy Cross is so unique?
I think because most of our lives, everyone who's in high school and elementary school, their lives really revolve around school, like their friends and the activities they do and the sports they're in. So if their lives are revolved around their school and their school is revolved around God and the good messages that we learn from Him and how, like, the morals that we learn, I think it's just a great opportunity. It helps us shape us as people.
Rockney, the same question. Why do you think it's so important that we do focus and we do study about religion and the message of Jesus Christ? Why do you think that's such an important part of your education at LaSalle Academy?
Because Jesus Christ He's amazing. And when we learn about Him, it's almost like we're having a connection with Him, and what they teach us about it, it's basically they're teaching us how to live our lives and how to be good people and how to be in friendship with God. And I don't think anything should be above God.
Ava, looking at your school in particular, Holy Redeemer, they will spend a great deal of time at a school mass talking about what it means to be a Christian and being Christ for other people and helping other people. And you'll hear it also in a religion class. But do schools like Holy Redeemer and Holy Cross and Good Shepherd and LaSalle Academy, do they go beyond that? Do they encourage you to live out the gospel message, not only within the school, but beyond?
Yes, like before sports games, we pray, and we also are involved in coat drives and food drives, so to help other people who aren't as fortunate as we are. And they also show us that Catholic colleges are also good choices to help shape us as a person.
Michael, why do you think that's such a great feeling? Why do you enjoy that opportunity to get involved in projects through school where you can help others? Why do you think that's important, to be Christ for others?
I think that's important more because you feel good about yourself. You feel that giving is more the right thing to do than be selfish and hoarding just selfish needs for yourself. And you forget to give sometimes, but through these donations, these drives, you get a chance to be a great Catholic, do the right thing, and help bring the Holy Spirit to others.
Mia, when I think about Catholic schools, and I've had the experience because my son is a graduate of Catholic schools here in the diocese. Mia, you have a new family at Good Shepherd Academy. Why does that mean so much to you, walking into that building, realizing that it's just not another school, that it actually is an extended part of your family? Teachers, for example, I mean, why do you feel so special about them? I mean, are they really there for you when you need them?
Yes, they're always there if I need help with subjects or even just like personal things like at home or with sports.
So does it feel like a family when you walk in that building?
Yes.
Leslie, looking at your own particular experiences at Holy Cross, we talk about the Christian values. Looking at academics, how do you think Catholic schools stand versus other schools? Do you think they do just as good of a job providing you with a quality education?
Yeah, I think they definitely do, sometimes if not better, just because maybe because we bring God, like, did you ever pray before a test or something? And like you always do better. That's always my experience. So I think maybe because there's so much God and love in the schools, it just promotes less stress and more openness, like with everyone. So it's easier to relax during tests and everything when you know God's around in the school.
Rockney, it won't be long before you'll be heading into high school yourself in a few years. How well do you think your education at LaSalle Academy is preparing you for what's going to lie ahead in the next few years?
I think it's some of the best education that I can get, because not only are they great with subjects like math, science, social studies, all of those, but the religion that they teach us is a huge part. We go to masses in school. We always pray. We pray before meals, before sports events, just always. And it is just a really, really good education that we have God with us. And
Ava, looking at your Catholic faith today, when you think about the pressures and challenges that young people face in today's world, why do you think those Christian values are probably just as important as any other subject that you're studying at Holy Redeemer?
Well, we are faced with a lot of pressures like peer pressure or drugs or anything bad like that. But I think that our teachers do a very good job at teaching us the right thing, the right path, to always look to God if we need it, and to look to them if we need it also.
Michael, when you reflect about everything you're learning at Good Shepherd Academy, how well do you think it's preparing you for the future?
It prepares us very well. Lots of teachers prepare us with, just for example, notes or tests and quizzes and exams, how it may be a challenge in high school, and that's why they want us to be ready, to be prepared, to be able to overcome challenges such as that.
Mia, when you think about that, learning how to be a Christian and whatnot, how do you think that's going to benefit you as you get older? Why do you think it's so important to learn what it means to be a Christian?
I think it's very important to learn how to be a Christian, because you could be nicer to each other. You can pray before everything, and you know more about God and what's going to happen.
Leslie, you yourself, it won't be that long before you'll start looking for colleges and thinking about the future. As you reflect back on your education both at LaSalle and at Holy Cross, same thing, do you think it's pretty much provided you with the foundation you'll need now to succeed in college and beyond?
Yeah, I think it does, because they really help us to understand what's going to happen. They don't just teach us like we're in 10th grade and we're only going to be in 10th grade forever. They prepare us by telling us how college is going to be and what we'll need to do in our future to have a good life.
Rockney, if you had an opportunity to get up in front of a group of students or prospective students who were thinking about going to a Catholic school, what do you think you would tell them in order to encourage them to get involved in Catholic education?
I would tell them that they would be a lot happier, they would have a lot of friends, that there's no bullies, there's no peer pressure in our Catholic schools, that it'll just be a really, really great opportunity, and if they take it, they really won't regret the decision, that they'll have a really good time learning, and that they'll get a great education.
Ava, when you think about it, I look at your Catholic education as being a joint effort. It's not just what you're learning in the Catholic school. The school is kind of joining forces with your parish community. It's joining forces with your home community and your parents. So all of these elements together are coming together to form your education. Why do you think that's so special, the fact that it's not just your school, but you know that Holy Redeemer is also welcoming your parents, your parish is also involved? Why is that such a special part of your education, having all of those elements coming together?
That we're not only learning stuff in school like math, science, we're learning about religion, and our school is very welcoming.
And Michael, when you think about it, looking at your sister Ava right now, is that kind of a neat feeling knowing that Catholic education is something that you can share with Mia and Ava?
Yeah, it really is. It really gives us a preview of what we will be doing and how we should do it. It gives us a great foretaste on how we should be excelling in school and focusing not just on what we're doing now, but what we can be doing for the future.
Mia, again, what would you say is probably your favorite part of being part of Good Shepherd Academy?
My favorite part of going to Good Shepherd Academy is that we pray in the morning before tests and after school. So we know more prayers, they teach us more prayers, and we even do the rosary.
Leslie, do you feel a certain responsibility being the older sibling? When you know that Rockney is kind of looking up to you as a role model, do you feel a certain responsibility in that respect, being a good Christian model for him?
Yeah, I do. And Holy Cross really, like Catholic education really helps with that too. They teach us how to present ourselves for the little ones, like the feeder schools and everything, to show them that Catholic education is really good and that we're not just learning all the subjects, we're learning how to be good people.
Rockney, one last question. When you think about it, looking at your parents and also your big sister, how much of an influence are they on teaching you how to be a good Christian?
They're a huge influence. It's being the youngest one in the family. I look up to all of them and I repeat them, and I haven't really gotten in trouble because if I repeat them, I'm just doing the good thing. They're really doing great, and they are preparing me to be a great Christian when I go out into the world. And they do deserve recognition for that.
I just have to say I am so proud of all of you. All of you are a shining example of what Catholic education is really all about. Good luck with all of your endeavors in the future. Over the weekend of February 16th through the 18th, Catholic teens from around the diocese will be gathering at Camp Lador in Waymart to take part in ISLI, or the International Student Leadership Institute. As we'll see in our closing segment, the intent of ISLI is to bring young people together for a faith-filled experience that enhances leadership skills and promotes learning, sharing, and prayer. Joining me now to discuss the ISLI experience in greater detail, it's a pleasure to welcome Liam Naughton, who is a member of St. Matthew's Parish in East Stroudsburg. Next, I'd like to welcome Magnolia Jones, a member of Church of St. Gregory in Clark's Green. First of all, thanks for coming today. Liam, for the benefit of someone who has never been part of ISLI, how would you describe it, what it's all about?
Okay, so ISLI, it's like if I had to pick like one word, I'd pick a family, and it's sort of like odd because it's so many different people that come from so many different places, and they're all like, all of them are different. You learn that along the way, but you also see that like they all like bond against like sort of like one common fact that they're all here to learn, they're all here to become better leaders and to become close with God, and that's what it's for. And it's like welcoming. You come there and everybody's happy to see you. You come there and everybody's screaming and cheering and happy that you're there, and you play games and you do everything that like, it's just a great time. Like there's nothing better than it, so it's my favorite time of the year to go and do that. So,
Magnolia, looking at a typical ISLI weekend, from the time you arrive on Friday until you leave on Sunday, what exactly transpires over the course of those days?
There's a lot of things that transpire, but I'd say they're put into sections. We do small groups, large group sessions, and we have meals together, and that seems kind of insignificant, but it's really important when you're put with people who you don't know, who maybe you would never know because they live on maybe the different side of the state, and you get to talk to them about what's going on in your small groups, what you liked about the large groups, what you didn't like about the large groups maybe, and that's how you make those friendships, and that's how you leave the weekend knowing that you made friends who you may never have even thought of before.
Now, in both of your cases, you started off as participants, and over the last few years, you've been coming back as facilitators. Liam, if you reflect back on your personal experiences with ISLI, what do you think you personally have gotten out of the program? How has it impacted your life?
Well, to start off, I still talk to the people that I participated with the first time a few years ago. Like we still have a group chat and we still text each other and all those things. That's the first thing. Also, I'm the vice president of my school. I'm in peer listening, and I don't feel like I would have felt comfortable doing any of those sort of things if I didn't learn any set of leadership skills from ISLI. So that's something that I got from that, for sure.
Magnolia, again, looking at your own personal experience, how do you think you've benefited from this program?
I think that was a great way to say it. I don't think I had the confidence before I went to ISLI to go up, and I'm also in a officer position in a leadership club at our school, and I wouldn't have had the confidence or really the drive to run for that position if I hadn't met people who were so like me and who encouraged me and motivated me. And even after I left ISLI and continued to do it, like continued to train and then become a trainer, I met people who really motivated me to be a better person and try new things that I wouldn't have tried beforehand.
Liam, I have spoken with a number of young people over the years who have basically taught me how ISLI has been a life-changing experience for them. They say that when they first arrived, a lot of them were nervous or apprehensive about it. And quite often it's usually a young person who has never taken advantage of a retreat experience. For someone watching the interview today who might be a little bit nervous or anxious and who's wondering, well, what's it all about? Am I going to have to get up in front of a group of people and share my life story? What would you say to such a person to encourage them to at least give it a try?
I would tell them, like, obviously to go for it, like, because I know that I made the choice to go within like the very last second. Like, it was, I think I went to the junior retreat first for this, and I chose to go the day of. And it was just from influence from my brother and from other people around me and talking to other people who've already gone. And they said what you said. They said that it was a life-changing experience and that you don't get to just do things like this every day. It's, it really is like what you said, a life-changing experience. That's the word I would use.
Magnolia, there is always that spiritual aspect underlying the ISLI program and the closing liturgy. When you walk into a room and you look around and you're meeting young people from around the diocese, young people who share your values and also your love for your Catholic faith, why is that such a powerful moment for you?
It was really powerful when I first walked in because I went 9th grade, so I had just entered high school, and I was encouraged by Shannon Kowalski, who really kind of had motivated me to try different things that I hadn't tried beforehand. So this was very daunting because it was something I didn't even know anything about. And when I walked in, I knew that I wasn't going to be an outcast here. I wasn't going to be strange to anyone here. I was just going to be myself, someone who valued the same things as these other people that I had yet to meet valued as well. And there was something really powerful, like you said, about that, because you don't feel that just walking through your normal day at maybe high school, or even if you're homeschooled, you may not feel that same connection with people. So it was just that connection of new people I had never met and me. It was great.
As I mentioned earlier, the two of you are coming now as facilitators. Obviously, you are so engaged in this program, you look forward to coming back and still being part of it. Why is it such a thrill for you now, Liam, to be able to help other young people on this journey? Well, you started off as a participant, but now you're guiding young people through the experience. Why do you enjoy that aspect of it, being a facilitator?
I enjoy it because when I was participating, I looked up to the people that were in the position that I'm in now, and I saw them as they were the best. They were always there for me, and they were helping me throughout the entire week, and they were role models. And now I'm glad that I get to do that for other people.
And Magnolia, for you personally, looking at that opportunity to share the ISLI experience with other young people, why is that such a thrill?
I think for the exact same reason. When I was first coming to ISLI, I looked at those people who were training and facilitating, and I was like, I just can't wait to get to know them better because they've had such a positive experience. And I really looked up to them as well because they were kind of embodiments of what I wanted to be when I walked in there. They were so graceful and so calm and so they were such leaders. And so when you walk in and you have people like that, guiding you, along with adults, of course, it's really special because it gives you nice role models. And so, like you said, I just can't wait to be a role model for someone else.
Liam, in today's secular society, a society that often doesn't place a great deal of value in Catholic faith, why do you think today, with the challenges that young people are facing, today more than ever, we need to take advantage of opportunities like ISLI?
I think because unless you go to a Catholic school or something like that, you don't often have a chance to even bring it up or talk about it in your home or with anybody because people aren't as interested in that sort of thing. And so when you go to ISLI, everybody there is interested in that. And everybody there wants to hear what you have to say on that particular topic. So it's important to be able to go and have other people who are engaged in the same conversation as you and are thinking the same things.
Same question, Magnolia. When you think about ISLI from the spiritual aspect, how has it impacted your own personal journey of faith?
Yeah, when I first went, after I had left and I had experienced adoration for the first time, I realized that that was something that I wanted to continue to do. If I hadn't been exposed to it for the first time, I wouldn't have even known that those were opportunities at my own church that I could attend and opportunities at my youth group that I could start going to. And after this last ISLI, it was such a spiritual experience for me that I wanted to go home and either pray the rosary every day or practice the examen, and that was something I had never felt before.
Liam, one last question. You mentioned before how you're taking more of a leadership role now in school as a result of this ISLI experience. As you look forward, whatever comes down in the future, whether it's college or your first job, how do you think the skills you've learned through ISLI are going to benefit you in the years ahead?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think I can take, one thing that I've learned from ISLI is how to deal with people and be around people who I've never met, and that's just a simple skill that I can use every single day. Just encountering somebody on the streets and just being able to say hi, how are you, things like that. And also bigger picture things like we learn objectives along the way, and it's big things like how to communicate better and how to be aware and be aware of what's going on around you. And it's really important to be able to do that no matter what your job is, no matter what you're doing at the time. It's simple things like that that can help you be better at it.
Magnolia, do you think, as a result of ISLI, do you think you're well prepared to face what lies ahead now, whether it be college or your career?
Yeah, definitely more prepared than I would have been without ISLI, because you're not directly talking about when you go to college you can practice this, or when you go to your first job interview you can practice this. These are things for the rest of your life that you can practice, and that's what I so love about still being in the program, because I learn something new every time I interact with the people at ISLI or I come to the meetings. Just skills that I can practice, like being a leader, being aware, being involved, just things that I can practice every day.
That's all the time we have for now. On behalf of the staff at Catholic Television, I'd like to thank you for joining us today and invite you to tune us in again next month for our next edition of Our Faith, Our Diocese.